Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm your host, Coach Vic, certified land investor, here to help you in your land investing journey. I'm excited to be here for you. I'm excited to give you what I got to give because today I'm about to continue the game I've been giving you. Because earlier I was telling you about how to research property, how to do price per acre, how to do all these other things just to help you do a better job at your investment. But now I'm going to tell you how long these things should take. So I've been getting a lot of questions about like, hey, how long does it take for you to get this feedback from this? Or how long does it take you to get replies from that? How long does it take to sell property? How long does it take to buy property? I'm getting all these questions about time. And there's one thing I know from my coaching background that sometimes it is an information problem. You would like to know a little bit more information. Other times it is a question about something else. Now, before I go on, I want to let me know if you guys can see me okay, hear me okay. Every time I do this, there's always a new change going on. So I want to make sure I'm coming across loud and clear and that I can be seen in all of my glory. All right. So just know that you're watching live, watching in a replay, let me know. I'm gonna try to look at the comments periodically. I do know that because I am doing this via Zoom, there is a lag. So there you may ask a question that I may not see it for another 5 to 10 minutes. And that's if I'm looking constantly. As I'm going through my flow and I'm trying to give you guys all this knowledge, I may not be looking at comments, but please comment because I do try to read them. I will try to answer your questions, especially if they pertain to timing or something I've talked about. And if I don't answer it live, I definitely will go back into the comments, answer it after that point. So I make sure you guys leave with all the information you need to go forward and make possible and profitable decisions. All right. So with that, I want to start off. I want to put something in your mind a little bit. All right. Think of two rookie land investors. Okay. Now this story may or may not have happened. Maybe the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but let's not worry about that. All right, so we have two guys. They both have the same access to the same information. And the first person, he takes that information. He doesn't really know anything else besides, well, I have this physical labor job. I didn't go to college. I just, I heard I could make money doing this. I don't like my physical labor job. I'm just going to do what this guy tells me to do. There's another guy who did go to college, and or maybe it had nothing to do with college, but for whatever reason, this other individual likes to ponder things a little longer, to question things a little bit. All right. So as both people get information from the same source, the person who thinks less starts to just follow the instructions. And they are putting a list, they're doing research, they're putting lists together of owners so they can contact them. They know the ones that are more likely to sell based on the data, and they just kind of follow the instructions and go for it. The other person who likes to ponder things a bit and take their time, well, they're trying to get their research just right, and they're asking a lot of questions to that information source, and they're busy with a lot of things. And sure, I put it in quotes, but they're not as busy as they think. I'll put it that way. Now, soon, that first person, the person who is sick and tired of their physical job, their body's breaking down, their knees ache, their shoulders ache, their back ache, they're tired of getting up at 4:30 in the morning, they're tired of swinging a hammer in the hot sun, they're tired of the different like dangers and perils of the workplace. They start getting replies. They start getting people interested in selling or at least looking to negotiate, and they feel like, okay, I can do this. While the other person who may not have the same sense of urgency, or maybe they're a little too cautious, they're not getting anywhere. And it's not because they're doing something different, it's just because they're taking their time to get to the point where they actually want to contact enough people to actually make something happen. Now, after a while, that first person, he doesn't know anything about negotiation or sales, but eventually he does find something that he feels that is a safe bet from the research that he's done and from the information he has. And he goes on and buys that property. The other person is just now getting out their offers, just now putting that list together because they had to make sure every I was dotted, every T was crossed, everything was perfect. And since they're still not sure, they only put out about 50 or 100 offers. So they're not really sure, but they kind of try it out a little bit. Meanwhile, the first person is on to the next step. He's looking to advertise a property. Doesn't really know about copywriting or sales or anything like that. He just follows instruction, makes a very simple ad, but he puts it in all the right places. Soon he's getting calls. Hey, so you got some property for sale. I would like to buy that property. The other person not getting any responses because they only put out 100 offers and who knows what happens. Eventually, that first person who was tired of working his physical labor job finally sells that property, makes a little bit of money, and the light bulb goes off in his head. It's like, you know what? I've made more with this one deal than I've done all month at my physical job, and I've only worked a few hours doing it. I think I'm going to start doing this full time. The other person who's taking their time, they're still, I wouldn't say complaining, but wondering and they're fearful that whatever they did didn't work. So they're like, oh, well, is it me? Did I do something wrong? Is it the information? What's going on? Do I need somebody to look at what I'm doing? All this other shit. Now, the question of time comes back up. How long does it take to get a deal? How long does it take to buy property? How long does it take to sell it? As you see from my example, for one person, it didn't take very long at all. For the other person, well, they may never find something to buy, let alone sell. So no matter what you take away from this, is all the information I try to give, it is absolutely useless if you don't apply it. And here's the thing, you can't just apply it in bits and pieces. It's like those religious folks, like those Christians especially, who like to pinpoint different parts of the Bible to enforce while totally ignoring other parts because it doesn't suit their agenda. Well, business, land investing in particular, is the same way. If you don't really go for it, you don't really put your effort into it, you're going to get out what you put in. If you treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. Now, if you treat it like a lifestyle, it will pay you beyond measure. With that said, let's get into some of these questions you guys have been asking me because I want to make sure. Now, let me check the comments real quick just to see if anybody's paying attention. As I said, all right, cool. Thanks, Mark, for letting me know you can hear and see me. Just want to make sure everything is going well. Sounds good. All right, great. So let's jump in. First, let me make myself clear. What I'm about to share with you is my personal experience. I haven't done a bunch of empirical evidence and research and data and put it all together to see how long it takes to anybody. But I can give you my personal experience. I can give you anecdotal experience from other people I know, other people who are learning under me, other people I've learned with side by side, other people who are ahead of me in this journey. And so I can give you that. But at the end of the day, just like my story, it depends on the person implementing. Are they going for it? Are they afraid to make mistakes? Or are they like going for it and like, hey, I don't care if I make mistakes, I'll just adjust as I go. Usually the people who are going for it, who aren't afraid of making mistakes and are in fact looking to make mistakes so they can learn faster, they're the ones that make deals quickly, right? Especially for the first time. After you get some experience, and of course things are gonna go faster. You know the game, you understand. But when most of you guys are looking to do this for the first time or to really do this properly, even if you may have made a deal before. So just understand that. Just understand that. Now, oh, okay, it is abruptly. Good to know. Cool. Sounds like the live stream ended abruptly, but I'm going to keep going. Uh, anyways, so let's answer that first question. My first question is, how long does land research take to do per day? Well, that's a great question. First off, I only research about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. I don't do it every day. And the reason why is usually you don't need to. The bulk of this is actually just contacting folks. Once you decide you're going to invest in an area, you don't need to reinvest in it or keep doing research. Now, there is time for deeper research, and that's per individual property. So somebody reaches back out to you, they're like, yeah, I want to sell you my property. That's when you go into your due diligence and you're doing deeper research. Most of that research is going to be in particular to that one property, but then a lot of that information will be the same for like the subdivision, for example, because obviously if you find a property in one subdivision, it's not going to have any different rules in the neighboring lot. It's going to be the same for everything. So, there's that. So again, there's no weekly or excuse me, daily research involved. It's all weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. Because you may do some good research for one area, and then there's so many people to contact that you're just focusing all your time and attention of getting a lot of or offers out, and then dealing with that flow. And then once that starts to dry up, and before you start to recontact folks with different offers or whatever, then maybe you might research a different county to kind of diversify a bit. But in general, I'm only doing research once a week at the most. In general, it's about once a month. And then once I have a handful of places I like, I'll stick with those for a little while until I'm like, you know what, the property here isn't suiting my needs. I need to find something that's a little better for what I'm looking for. Maybe I want more money or higher returns. Maybe I want to find cheaper land or more expensive land, whatever it is, right? You always have reasons to want to, adjust after a certain period of time. But once I am actually in research mode, I originally, especially with the escape velocity strategy, it only took me about 5 to 10 minutes to do research a particular area. And if you guys gave me your email, I gave you a video how I do this whole thing and how you can get started in this. You see that it doesn't take long. I primarily use free tools like Zillow and things of that nature where I see what's available on the market currently. I see how much is available. I see if people are actually interested in those prices or interested in that area. And I take a couple of metrics like that just from Zillow. And if it passes the sniff test, I'm like, I like this area. I'm going to invest here. That's it. And that usually only takes a couple minutes. The longest part is actually finding an area that you like and just verifying that you're not looking at a fluke. So, for example, on Zillow, sometimes if you zoom in a little too much, you might think that, oh, this area, crosses every box off on the list. But then if you zoom out just a little bit and a little bit more of the area can be seen, you may find out that, oh shit, it's only this one little subdivision that was good. The whole town isn't so good. So I actually got to be very careful with who I mail to, or understand that most people associate this area, this town, with the bad parts, and not many people know about this good little pocket. Therefore, trying to get a sale may or may not be difficult depending on how savvy the buyer is. But in general, 5 or 10 minutes. Now, these days I do a little bit more research, so I don't have to go through a lot of iteration. And when I do more research, that's when I'm doing the things I talked about the last few weeks, like the price per acre, for example. What I'm doing is making sure that I have everything accounted for in every little subdivision, every little area. Now I don't do this, like, I don't find every subdivision, but any area where I can find data, I would, use that. As long as I get enough comparables, I get about three, the minimum for me. Sometimes I might go two, depending, but two or three parcels in an area would give me a good idea of how much of like property should go for per acre in that area. And I just kind of have it listed. So then I know now, okay, from the giant list I collected or created or whatever, all the parcels that are in this subdivision, this is the pricing. In that subdivision, that's the pricing. In that subdivision over there, that's the pricing. In doing so, I give more accurate offers first time round. Now, does that mean everything is going to be great and perfect the first time? No, no, it's not. But we'll get into that in a moment. Okay, awesome. Next question. All right. So how long does it take till I get any feedback on my offers? Well, that's a good question. Normally, when I do my offers, it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Now, if I'm doing a text campaign, uh, 20 minutes, take about 20 minutes or so. Now, when I do a text campaign, I'll text about 50 to 100 people at a time. I don't do the whole 2,000 person list or 300 person list or however big the list is. And then most of the people, maybe the numbers are wrong. Maybe people don't respond to numbers they don't know. Maybe they think I'm some kind of robot and I'm a spam bot. But eventually, it doesn't take long for an actual person who actually owns the property to hit me back. And I let them know what I'm looking to spend. And they'll let me know if that's reasonable or not. And after a few of these, then I have a pretty good idea. Okay, well, potentially good idea, because I could have just ran into a string of people who just are unrealistic about their property. But it gives me an idea of, all right, well, do at least people like the offer? There are at least people willing to listen. And that gives me feedback right there. Now, as I talk to the individuals and see what they're looking to get for their property, if we're within the same ballpark, then I can, all right, cool. I only want to spend 800, but they want 1,200 for their property. Not crazy. You know, maybe I spend a little bit more, take a chance. If this is a new area, if it's an area I've already done, then I already know like whether or not I want to pay that 1,200 or not. But all right, cool. That's reasonable in my opinion. Now, if I'm like, hey, I only want to spend like 800 bucks, I'm like, I want $30,000. That's extremely unreasonable. In fact, I just had that. I was looking to buy another 10 lots, but the person who was asking, who was looking to sell, is like, hey, I want 3,000 per lot, which is insane because I was in that area all of 2020, and there was no way that I was able to sell a lot for more than 2,000 per lot. And this guy wants 3,000 per lot for 10 lots. So yeah, that wouldn't work. I was selling two lots together for like 3,500, just for a quicker, faster sale. So using my style of, selling and all that, I wouldn't make any money. I would lose a ton of money if I were to go there or have a bunch of property that nobody would buy or have to wait for a long time for the right buyer. And that's just not how I roll. So understanding what's reasonable and what's not kind of dictates how I move forward. But again, that instant feedback will happen when you're texting. Now, if I just send out a mailer, that takes a couple of weeks. Why a couple of weeks? Well, it's not like I'm printing the things out and stuff in the envelopes here at my house. What I do is I use a service. I use Click to Mail. I have a template. I just uploaded a list. I say, okay, mail these people the postcard from this template. Now, when the Click to Mail gets that order, it doesn't just start printing right away. It'll, receive the order. It might take a day or so before it starts to print the order. And then I'll get another email a day or so later that it's like, okay, we're finally sending them out. And then I got to go through the U.S. Postal Service. People get them. They hold on to the offer. Like, huh, okay, interesting. This person wants to actually sell me their property, or I want me to sell them my property. Okay, cool. And then like that's it, right? And they hold on to it, and maybe they call, maybe they don't. But that whole process takes about 2 to 3 weeks. And then, when they're finally ready to call. And then when they're ready to call, they'll let me know for the most part, hey, is the price range on the card reasonable? And if I didn't give them a price range because they owe taxes and I want to go that angle, well, we'll see. But about 2 to 3 weeks from mailing the postcard to know. And then once I start getting, phone calls and stuff like that, then I know. So if I'm getting a ton of phone calls, then I know that I'm in the ballpark. If I only get a handful, then you got to talk to the owners and see, okay, what's their particular angle? What do they want? You got to start getting some, deeper data just from talking to folks and understanding. So to recap, when you're texting, you'll know within like 20 minutes, maybe an hour, just depending on how quickly people are responding to your text. When it's mailing, it takes a couple weeks because it takes time for the mail to go out. It takes time for people to find a time to want to call you. And then once you start to converse with these folks, you can get an idea. And then if if your offer is good, then you'll do a lot of deals. You don't have to do a lot of negotiation. If your offer is no good and you find yourself negotiating a lot, then you got to like figure out, okay, do I need to add more money to this? If I do, is it worth it? Things like that. So that's that. Next question. All right. How long does it take? Or how quickly can I buy a property? So as you can see here, I put these questions in sequential order. I went from the research to getting feedback on my offers, and now it's how quickly can I buy? Well, there's two ways I can answer this. One, how long does it take to buy a property? Could be like, how long does it take from like, hey, yes, let's do a deal. I will buy your property. Or I can be like, how long does it take to like, hey, I'm just starting land investing for the first time. When can I expect to buy something? So the first one is when you agree to do a deal, you're going to do some due diligence. Now, for me, the due diligence lasts from between 30 minutes to an hour. And that due diligence is I'm looking at the title chain. I'm looking if there's any liens on the property. I'm looking to make sure that the person who owns it or who claims to own it actually owned it, and I can actually do a transfer legally. Because, if John Smith owned it, John Smith passes away, and now his daughter thinks she owns it, and nothing was done like legally to prove that. Well, that's going to take time and effort and stuff to resolve that. If everything is right, John Smith owns the property according to public record, and I'm talking to John Smith, then that 30 minutes to an hour is all I need. Now, besides doing that stuff to make sure I can buy it legally, I'm getting screenshots of the property, where it is, some, GPS coordinates, things like that I'm gonna use for sales. And that's why it takes a little bit. Then I print out a new deed and I send it. Now it takes about, if the person's on top of their shit, they'll have that deed back to me probably within like a week. I always use overnight mail because every time I need that thing back ASAP, because you never know if you're gonna get a buyer. As soon as I send it out to that person, the deed and the check, I will also start to advertise that property. Sometimes I advertise in different ways, and I'll get to that soon in another question. Now, for those of you that are new to land investing, you want to know how long it takes. Well, you can kind of think about it the way the opening story I had, and you can think about the way I actually answered those first couple of questions, with the research portion, with the adjusting your pricing portion, and then the due diligence part. So to add that up, right, takes couple hours to find, do a couple areas that you might invest in and put a list together. If you're mailing that list, it's going to take a couple of weeks to start getting feedback. And if you're proactive, you can actually do both, feed or mailer and text. You do that, you're going to get, two-prong approach, get it from both sides, get it going, boom, bing, bang, boom, bang, bang. All right. But once you add that together, you can, if you take it seriously and you're not afraid, because scared money don't make money, within a month. You can have your first property within a month. If you're scared and you're nervous and you're like, I gotta make sure this is right, not right, who knows? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, who knows? The guys that work with me, I push them to be their best. So my goal is always to help them have a property within a month. But then even then, it's still something new and scary. So for a lot of people, it's hard for them to actually take that action. So it's always a way to just keep people motivated, keep them inspired, keep them going. But when they finally take that leap and they do it for real and all that, it doesn't take that long. All right. So just to recap, when you're doing the due diligence part, you're just like, hey, how long does it take? A week or so, maybe 2 weeks at the latest, if the person is slow getting your deed back to you. If you are a new land investor and you're trying to do this for the first time, if you hit it hard, you do it properly, especially the way I teach it, you'll have it within a month. If you don't do it hard, you kind of dabble, you're a little afraid, I don't know. It can take a million years. You may never get a deal. Who knows? All right. Or maybe a couple months. I really don't know. All right. Now, how long did it take to get a return on my investment after that research? Well, it depends on your offers. It depends, how quickly you make adjustments and you pivot. But in general, you want to take all the previous answers from I've answered so far in account, because we're just kind of adding on to that. So a couple hours for your research, for a couple different areas, and putting a list together. If you're texting, and add another hour or so. If you are actually, what's the word I'm thinking about? Mailing, maybe add a couple weeks. You're buying, you finally buy something. It's going to take another week or two to get that deed. So we're about 5 weeks in, but now you own a property. Next is sales. And how long does it take to sell? Well, if you do things the way I teach, it doesn't take long to sell, because you're buying stuff that is desirable and priced, like has an irresistible price, where people are like, I got to have this. Now, it also depends on who you're advertising to. For me, as someone that's done this for a while, I have a list of buyers. It's basically people who bought from me before, and I just make sure I keep in touch with them. So if I sell to one of them, it only takes me a couple. It could be an instant sale. It's like as soon as I like hang up the phone, like, okay, I'm going to buy this property from you, deal. Hey, is it got another property? You want it? Hell yeah, I want it. Okay, good. Boom. Sometimes it literally is that fast. Other times it's okay, yeah, I want to buy a property, okay, deal. I start advertising it, and then it's just going out to the general public. If I in a good area and did my research properly, it'll take about 2 weeks to sell, maybe three. If it's an area that is very competitive and there's a lot of people selling property there or whatever it is, then it might take a month to a month and a half. Usually in those situations, I didn't do my research properly. Sometimes it's nothing you can do. It just takes a little while. But I used to think a month and a half was a long time, and to me it is. But then I remember when I first got started, it used to take me like 3 or 4 months to sell a property. I just didn't know what I was doing. So that was, that's progress. And you think about other investment models, it takes years to get like a 30% return I'm doubling or tripling my money in a month and a half and on the slow end, I will take that all day long. So give you an idea. Now, if you don't do things properly, then you'll be like how I used to be. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months before you can sell a property. And then you might be not be selling it to the best person who's gonna pay up front. Now you're dealing with someone who doesn't have much and they're paying in installments, which isn't a problem, but maybe the individual that you purchased that sold to, they're not the most reliable person because your advertising didn't attract the right folks. I don't have that problem anymore. Most people pay me quickly, and when they do pay in installments, they actually pay well before the time is supposed to be. I expected them because they add in extra payments. Um, and the ones that have to take a little extra time because COVID and all that, well, they've always been good. They've been very communicative with me, so I'm never in the dark. So yeah, there's a way to attract the right people, and there's a way to attract the wrong people. I've done both. I know how to attract the right people, and I tell the people in my group how to do the same. I don't want them suffering under that bullshit. But here's a recap of that. Let's just say we took all that together. About 5 weeks, right? A month to 5 weeks. So on day one, I'll have 500 bucks. On day 30, or maybe day 45, I now have 1,500. It's usually how it goes. I don't know many investment models that can work so quickly. All right, last question, running out of time. How do you know when it's time to adjust or leave an area? Well, after a month and you got no replies, it's time to go. After you get enough people saying, I don't want to sell my property, or your investment or your offers are way too low. Again, not just one or two people, because there are always going to be people like that. It's got to be a lot of people saying that. Then okay, you're not able to invest at the level that is needed to buy property there. Sometimes that level is a dumb, ridiculous um, level because it's like, hey, no one's going to buy property at the price you're asking for. Why would I buy it from you for that price, right? Maybe it's sentimental value. Let's see what else. When you take, okay, another reason. When you're selling your lot, let's say you buy something and it takes a long time to sell, it takes a couple months to sell it, and it's a pain in the ass, and you got to like go through all these hoops. Time to leave. Sell that property and don't buy any more there. When the subdivision or the working with the county or the town or whatever is a big pain in the ass, meaning the subdivision don't allow people to just roll up to the property and check it out without going through a gate or something. Not I'm talking about a gate. I'm talking about like something like, hey, why are you here? Right? Those are usually the HOAs and stuff like that. Or the area is just too hard to navigate for most people, so it's hard for them to find the property. So you're like, forget it. Or it's just sketchy. People that do live in that area just are on the up and up. It's time to go. Most of these things you'll know after a month because either whether it's hard for you to purchase with the amount of money you want to use or spend, or you bought a property and every time someone said, hey, I'm gonna go check out the property, and they give you, feedback on what they saw, and enough people say the same thing, you're gonna be like, oh shit, man, this area sucks. Now again, you'll eventually sell that property, so don't worry about it. Just understand, like, it wouldn't be in your best interest to stay in that area. Sure, you could have gotten unlucky for that one property, but in general, you want to make sure you ain't um, what's the word? Sticking around for a place where you're not making any money, especially if you're doing it out of comfort because you're afraid to step your game up. You definitely don't want to do that. All right. So hopefully they answered all your questions about time. If you found this valuable, let me know in the comments below because I got something I want to ask you guys. All right. So you guys ready for this? Now, here's the thing. Do me this favor. In the comments below, tell me what you have done, if anything, in regards to finding a deal. Maybe you've actually put a list together and you sent out a bunch of mailers. Maybe you actually put a list together, but you didn't contact anybody. Maybe you just started doing research and you found some areas that you would potentially want to invest in, but you haven't taken that next step. Whatever you are, wherever you are on this journey, right? Let me know. Maybe you've already done a deal or two in the area and you're like thinking about jumping in with a little bit more capital. Let me know. All right. The second thing I want to know, if you are not getting the results you want, do you understand why? Is the information I've been sharing the last few weeks, has it been resonating with you? What about what I shared today with the timing and why things take a certain amount of time? Did that give you a clue? If you have no clue on why you're not getting the results you want and you want to know, well, I'm going to invite you to give me a, shot, give me a shout out, give me a call, hit me up in the DMs, whatever. Maybe I can help you, maybe I can't. I don't know. But for the most part, I would love it where people will come and start to win on a big level. I would love it where people, instead of talking about it, they be about it. And if you're having any type of trouble, let me know. I'm not looking to sell you anything. I just want to be in the pocket so I understand what you guys need from me so I can keep giving it to you. So I'm not trying to figure things out on my own. I'm like, oh, they need this information. I got it. All right. So that's all I'm asking you to do. Let me know where you are on your journey of trying to acquire a property or your next property. And then if you're not getting the results you want, let me know how I can help you do that. All right. But that's it. This is Coach Vic signing off. I appreciate everything you guys are going through. I appreciate you guys being here, listening to me, and growing this group. Thank you guys for everything. I will see you guys next time. Peace.